Okay, so today I want to tell you about Anki. Anki or Anki, A-N-K-I. And it's one of my favorite tools for learning new words. So I like to study languages. I live in Indonesia, so I'm always trying to improve my Indonesian. I also study French and Spanish and a little bit of Mandarin, which is very hard. So I used to use flashcards to learn new words and grammar and things like that.
Okay, just to remind you what flashcards are, in case it's been a while since you've used them. We have English on one side, that's my native language, and let's say I'm studying Indonesian, I'll have the Indonesian on the other side. So I see the English, I think the Indonesian is kucing, and I check kucing was correct, so got that correct. And then you could also do a picture if you want. So here's a picture, and the Indonesian is burung, and that's correct. So those are flashcards. Okay, and why flashcards are so helpful is because they rely on the testing effect. So the testing effect is what happens when you test yourself on information and you don't just reread it or look at it again. Here's a study done, and there have been lots of studies like this. In this one, we can see that some people were given material and they just studied. They had extra time to study. Then they took a test. They got the high score, 80%. And then others were given a practice test. So they actually were tested on the material that they studied. They had less time to study, not as many minutes, but they took a test. They actually did not quite as well on the test as the ones who didn't take a practice test. But you can see after 2 days and after 1 week, those who took a practice test, so overall they took two tests, one a practice test and one test as a final assessment. And these people did much better remembering the information in the long run. So the testing effect is a really powerful way to boost your memory, to help your memory. And when we study languages, when we are having a conversation, we're having to pull words out from our memory. And this is exactly what we do when we uh, study flashcards. We are thinking of the word bird, for example, and we have to remember the Indonesian. For me, for example, burung. So flashcards are a great practice for real life conversations.
But the problem was, at one point, I had 30 decks of flashcards on an app on my phone, and I had around 40 to 50 cards in each deck. So that was maybe close to 1,500 words I was trying to keep in my mind, in my brain. And the problem with that is that that becomes overwhelming. You don't know, you can't study 1,500 words every day. That will take several hours. But then you do you just study the hard words and mark which ones are hard? But then if you never study the easy ones, eventually you're going to forget the easy ones. So I really wanted a system where the app would tell me which words I need to review and when I need to review them. And that's where Anki comes in. So Anki is it's actually totally free on the computer and for Android. But if you have an iPhone, you do have to pay for the app. I paid I think it was $25 one-time payment. But just try it out for free on your computer. And so Anki uses space time repetition, which and an algorithm to determine when you need to study new words. So here's how it works. Let's say I'm trying to learn the Indonesian word for cat, which is kucing. So on one side I have cat, on the other side it says kucing. So let's say I get it correct. This is a new word for me. The app will wait 10 minutes before it shows that word to me again to be tested. If I get it correct, it will show it to me the next day. If it's correct, it will show it to me 3 days later. And then if it's correct still, maybe 7 days later, 2 weeks later, 1 month, and it goes on like that. I don't remember the exact time intervals. But if I get it incorrect at any point in that progression, it will take me back to day 1. So I'll have to see it again the next day, 3 days, 7 days, etc. But you can also tell it, oh, this word I knew it, but it was kind of hard for me. Then it will show it to you sooner. Maybe instead of after 3 days, it'll be after 2 days or something like that. Or you can say, oh, this was so easy for me. And then I will wait, 10 days instead of 3 days. I love this app because, for example, I have one deck now with like 1,000 cards in it. But today, I only have to study like 20 or 30 of them, which doesn't take as much time as studying 1,000. So that's the beauty of Anki. I have tons of words, but I don't have to spend much time studying them, and I'm just confident to know that every new word I put in there, it will take me through a process to put that word into my long-term memory. I have some words that I will not see until like 1 or 2 more years because it's already basically in my long-term memory. I might just need a refresher every few years. And it does that all for you right on the app.
Okay, so here's how you can find Anki. So yeah, just type in Anki Flashcards or just, I guess, Anki. And you see I already have it here, apps at ankiweb.net. So just click on that, download. We have different versions. I'm just going to do the latest version for Windows 10 or 11. You can also download it for Mac. So anyway, all right, we'll download it. All right, it's downloading. Then go to downloads and it's installing. I clicked yes. Okay, it's done. There we go. Okay, and I'm already logged in, but you can create your own account. And I will show you how to do that. Well, let's see. Okay, so if you're just on your own, let's say, for example, I will switch profiles. So I can. Okay, I will switch profiles. I'll call this. We'll add Kelly2. All right. All right, here's Kelly2. Let's see what Kelly2 does. Okay, we'll open this one. Open Kelly2. All right, so I have no decks or anything. Okay, now you have Anki downloaded on your computer. You can start adding flashcards. So here's what this looks like. Let me make it bigger. And you can immediately click add up here. Add. And then start adding your flashcards. So let me show you what that looks like. Here we go. All right, so we can do a couple different things here. There's so many things you can do, actually. I don't even do all of them. But here's the front of the flashcard. So that's what you're going to see. And then what you need to answer, what you need to think of is on the back. So for example, I recommend you write on the front your native language. And then you have to try to remember what's on the back, which is your target language. So if I was Indonesian learning English, maybe I would put down the word for bird in Indonesian, burung. On the back, I would use English, a bird. Then we just click add right here. And we have one card. All right, and then you could also record yourself. You just click this button. I don't think you're going to be able to hear me, but it's pretty easy. You could just click record, burung, click save, and then I have a recording there. Okay, you could do that, and then the back you have burung, I mean bird, bird, okay. Or you can also do a picture. So you can go to Google, find a picture. You can go to Google Images, click bird. Got all these beautiful birds. Click the one you like. That's a cute bird. Let's do that bird. Copy image. So I just right clicked on that. I clicked copy image. And now I can put that, I can right click, just click paste. I got my picture of the bird there. On the back, I can click a bird. I do think pictures are nice. That could be one way that could help you stop translating from your language to English, or to your target language. Pictures are great. They're not always practical though, because if you want to learn an abstract word like perhaps reason, or meaning or something, patience, it's hard to find a picture for that, but bird works well. Then again, we click add right here. And that's how we add cards to Anki. Now you can see we have 3 cards here now. And by the way, this is called default, but I can change the name right here by clicking options, rename, sorry, rename. I can just English. Okay, now it says English here. If I want to make another deck, let's say, let me rename this, let's call this English vocabulary. Okay, so now we have our flashcards, but let's say I want to add a new deck. I could go up here, click add, and if I click add, it's just going to take me right to where I can add new flashcards. If I want to add a new deck, I can go over here, click English vocabulary. And if I had more decks down here, I could select whichever deck I wanted. But I don't, so I can just click add over here to create a new deck. So click add, and see it has new deck name. So let's do English grammar. Okay. And now I'm using English grammar. Okay, so now whatever I want to add, I can, it will be in English grammar. All right, let's say, for example, I will say past tense of write. In the back, I will say wrote. So that could be something if you're doing, trying to learn English grammar, I could add that. All right, so let me show you some examples of my decks. I'm going to switch profiles. Here are all my decks. You can see I have quite a few decks. And I do divide up my languages just because I use this app called Pimsleur. It's an audio listening app, and I love adding some vocabulary from that particular app to my decks. So that's why I'm separating them. And then anyway, all right, so let's look at some examples. We'll go do some Spanish. Okay, Spanish other. So click on that. I can just click study now. And you see that these are 35 words I have to review. If I had added new words today, I would see them here. And you don't have to worry about which ones are new, learning, or review. It's just for your information. The app will show you which words you need to review. Okay, study now. So here's my English, and then I have to think of the Spanish. So it's la segunda imagen, la tercera imagen. I click show answer down here, show answer. Oh, let me make this smaller. Okay, and that was correct. So you see that I will see it again in 3 days. If I felt like it was very easy, I could do 4 days, etc. Okay. Let's see, older sister. Uh, la hermana mayor. Let's check. Okay, hermana mayor. No, I'm going to count that as correct. Because I guess, okay, anyway, so that is, you can see, I'm not going to see this word for 1.7 months, but I felt a little shaky on that. So I'm going to click that this was hard for me, and that way I will see it sooner in 1.2 months. So, man, what is that? What's 0.2 of a month? I guess it's 1 month and what, 6 days? Okay, I get along well with my teacher. Me cae bien mi profesor. Okay, me cae bien mi profesor. Nathan is on his way. Nathan is my brother. And this was something I learned in my Spanish class when my brother was late. Nathan está en camino. Let's check. Yeah, that's correct. All right, so you can see, right? The times here vary so much. It just depends on the last time you study that word, and because they really track how when you should study it again. When you're about to forget it, that's the best time to study it again, um, because that's the most efficient way to study it, and it helps you put that word or phrase into your long-term memory. Now you can see I like to use sentences actually. That's just my preference. I do individual words sometimes, and I have done grammar rules before, like asking what's the past tense of write. Okay, the past tense is wrote. But for me personally, I prefer sentences because that way I'm getting both vocabulary and grammar and at the same time. And so anyway, that's just the way I like to do that. So that's an example of some Anki flashcards.
So if you haven't downloaded Anki, I highly recommend it. It will really help you to learn these words, your new words, more effectively.